I see you with your goals and your big ideas, your hopes and dreams that you keep locked behind your fears. Why tarry? Why wait? Tomorrow's fair weather may come too late. You were born to be better. Why deny what's true? A dream is just an ambition that you don't pursue. Have courage, be brave. Take a chance or take your chances to your grave. You've got a hunger, you've got a need. Why try denying what you believe? You gotta take pride in who you are. Know you deserve all this and more. Nothing is written, nothing is said. If you want the future, you've got to get it. They may be smarter, they may be stronger, but you've a will and you've got a hunger. Oh, 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 I wanna see you rise up, rise up. Oh, 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 I wanna see you rise up, rise up. Oh. Your heart desires, you wanna burn bright, then you know you've got to feed the fire. One flash, one flicker, one spark, and then your heart beats quicker. You're gonna fail and you're gonna fall, you're gonna gamble and lose it all. You're gonna bleed and you're gonna cry, but better to fail than never to try. Those are the risks when you're a contender, scars that mark you from a pretender. When the world knocks you down, then you get right back up again, sing it and show them all just to them.
There we go.
Help, let me out of here.
Well, we're live now, so that was literally the first thing anyone heard. That's brilliant.
I'm sorry. I said I'd get him here. I didn't say I'd get him to behave.
Yeah, don't
no,
worry.
That's fine. We don't. I think good behaviour is optional here, so that's totally fine. I think it's more of people are glad when PD actually when they turn up and agree to chat and stuff like that. So Matt's a veteran at this now. He's been on. This is your third time on stream.
I think it is, isn't it? Yeah.
So
and what we talked about last time.
Well, we spent about a good half hour chatting about Skaven last time. So
I think not in our game.
No, I think that was it. A lot of people were asking when you're going to bring them in. So we won't talk about the Skaven this time. I promise you that. So no. I have to get on I received a gift today. I don't know who from. So the running joke is when I do crafting streams, I always use a stapler because I'm crap at it. Someone has sent me this. A handy stick. Someone has sent me that. Yeah. I don't know who, but
it's like a sewing stapler.
Yeah. So, that'll be a laugh. It's never going to work. The other thing, I suppose, is because I do these, I don't know if you know, I do these makeovers at Empire as well.
Right.
Where people who they can't afford a lot of kit, they can barely afford the ticket, they'll turn up with basic. I do a bit of fundraising, and we get 200 quid put aside, and we take them out and make a little bit of video about it, and they get 200 quid's worth of free kit to help them on their merry way. We're doing that again at this event. So thankfully Comic-Con went really, really well. So I believe a lot of people have posted in Facebook saying that they're here from MCM, and that was
really quite exciting actually. I thought, and I am, I'm the sort of person that gets run over by trucks because I don't notice them coming, and even I sort of noticed, hang on a minute, there are people popping up all over our Facebook groups going, hey, I heard about you at Comic-Con, I'm really interested, which is fantastic. It's just fantastic. I genuinely think our hobby, LARP, is of interest to many more people than currently do it. And I think we have this chasm that we can't get across. We can't, 20 years ago when you talked about LARP, I talk about this a lot. 20 years ago when we talked about LARP with people and would back away. Now when you talk about LARP to people, they just go, that sounds amazing. There's so much potential out there if we can get the word out, and I think we really struggle, and it's just amazing that you and others were able to use Comic-Con in that way. I think to hit for the I don't how many people go to Comic-Con? Shitloads, is that the official figure?
The official, metric fuck ton.
A whole metric fuck
A
ton, not
whole
a
metric ton.
half a
No,
metric. Yeah, metric fuck ton. It's got to be tens and tens of thousands. I'm guessing. It's a big thing in it.
they said they believe they sold 180,000 tickets this time round.
Am I allowed to say "fuck me" on the stream? Fuck me,
Well,
readers.
I know, right?
Yeah,
It's
and that's just amazing, isn't it? It's
it is.
fantastic that our hobby is getting out there and getting in front of 180,000 people. And I love it that we've got like What's Your Game and Ian's got his thing and so on and so on. And those are great, but they are
LARPCon.
a LARPCon. They're really quite tightly focused on the hobby. That's the hobby, selling the hobby to the people in the hobby.
Yeah, yeah.
And with the best will in the world, everyone, we're not gonna bring thousands of people into LARP by having a con for by the people in the hobby for the people in the hobby.
Oh,
We
exactly.
need to, yeah,
It's when I started doing Comic Con all those years ago. So I think it was about 4 years ago when MCM actually reached out and said, would people be interested in doing a panel at Comic Con? So I got invited to go along to do that. This is before any of the streaming or anything, and we did this panel, and it went down really well. And they then approached me afterwards to say, would I be interested in coming back in October to do another panel to talk about LARP? And I had free reign to get whoever involved.
wow,
So I
nice,
did all of that, and I've basically been doing it for like each Comic Con for a few years now. So, but this time round, they didn't want to do a panel. They said they wanted to open up the floor space. So we had a massive floor space this time. And I thought, okay, I know I can get people there to represent Empire as the players to represent Empire, because it's all very well and good having crew turn up there and deliver a spiel, have Paul turn up in all of his purple, which he did for 5 minutes. Um, so have all these people turn up and talk about the game, but we actually had it so people were there in all of their kit actually talking about the game. But it was LARPs across the
fantastic.
board. So there's obviously there's Menhir's Fate, which is coming out next year.
Yeah,
We
really
had
exciting.
That's going to be good fun. There was Bastion, which is a
Mm,
new zombie post-apocalyptic LARP as well. There was Northern Kingdoms,
cool.
so there was like 5 LARPs represented,
Mm,
and people were there and people got involved, and it was very very interactive, which was really really cool. And I think that has gone down well enough because it's the first time LARP has been shown like that at a proper
yeah.
at Comic Con, and they've already asked me to come back and do it in October.
Well, it was really noticeable. I don't know what you did, but it worked. I've never seen a load of people turn up before going, "Oh, I'm here from Comic Con." So whatever you were doing previously was having some impact. What you did at that last one went, it had a much bigger impact. So it worked, mate. It worked
It
basically. Well,
really really
well
good.
done. Well done.
Well, yeah, don't just that. It's everyone who was there was absolutely
Yeah, sure.
phenomenal.
Everyone who was involved,
Yeah,
good, big. It's
but
great to see that to get, that's I've always said what the hobby needs is like lots of really healthy events with lots of people going to them. We need a healthy hobby that's growing and you know
yeah,
um
definitely. I think it works so well because everyone was positive. I think it's the difference when people are talking about LARP, when people are talking about any hobby that they love. I think it's very obvious when someone's just there reading a script, delivering lines. But if you get someone who's there, they believe in it, they love it, they're talking passionately about it, then it comes across, and it's
yeah,
a lot easier for people to get involved in. And the
yeah.
fact at Comic Con we had a load of monsters there, and people were allowed to kick the shit out of stuff.
Eh,
That worked really really well. It's just the maintenance of those weapons though has gone through the roof. So
I got my start in LARP. The first LARP I ever did, I went to a little role-playing festival in London, and
mm,
Labyrinth had taken a one room of the kind of hotel that the whole thing was set in, and they would send us in to beat up some monsters, come back out, reset the monsters, and back in you would go 4 times for an adventure. And it was terrible. It was hokey and rubbish and terrible, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. As a tabletop role player of years, I was like, oh yeah, this is cool.
well, I mean,
Um,
it could be you could be as old as Andy Raff and experienced.
Ooh, ooh.
I hope he's in chat. It's
I am older than Andy Rath.
I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah, I'm an old fucker now.
Same. I'm really feeling it now. But
it was very fascinating seeing the Menier's Fate stuff and being like, oh yeah, I'm the old fucker now. These are all the new people. They're all the new kids doing the new exciting stuff. It's like, I remember when I was the new person. It's like that was 20 years ago.
jeez, yeah. So how long's Profound Decisions actually been running for now?
We started the company in 2004. I think that was our first year running. So
Hmm.
this is our 20 years. I did Omega before that for 5 years, and then I did a couple of years of running events before that. So I've been running LARP events for 27 years.
Jesus. Jeez. Yeah.
I,
So I.
in my head, right?
Really, he has.
In my head, I only got into this hobby a few years back.
Hmm.
In reality, 27 years. Mm,
So I had my first. I have to admit, I had my first experience of you as a like an NPC last event,
right.
and it was great. It was really really fun because it reaffirmed something to me that you know the game, and I was witness to someone trying to play a virtue defense with you, and then them trying to explain pretty much what a virtue defense was, and you were countering it by explaining it, and then trying to get their definition, and it was wrong. It was a wonderful thing to watch, and you could. The good thing is that I enjoy people watching.
Right.
So when that was all happening, and I was just looking around at everybody who was there, and a lot of people there dropped out of character for it, and people were just like, I never want to argue with Matt P in game. There was a lot of that going, and it was really, really good. It was really, really fun to watch. But
I had some wonderful interactions last event. I was an NPC who went in to speak with the orcs,
mhm.
and we spent about 2 or 3 hours debating. And then I did my Magistrate Abraham, which was just enormous fun. I felt very guilty. I was like, I'm having way too much fun here.
You could tell.
Yeah, and I had one earlier, middle of last year, where I played a poacher, a filthy poacher, and some people had to kill me, and that was just I, if you can still get those moments where you just absolutely transported and you're in the space, you're in the character. I always say for me, I am live role playing at the point where I stop thinking, what would my character do? And I just think as the character. I
Mm.
just think as, and that for me, once that happens, then I'm live well, and then it just comes alive, and there's no other hobby like it. There's no other experience like that. You
Yeah,
can't.
there's like those perfect moments, isn't there, when it's just real,
Yeah,
and everybody around you is just real as well.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
do you get to go out much, Claire? I mean, I see you walking around, but I think the only time I ever see you really walking around doing anything is when I'm aware something has happened somewhere, and someone needs to be told off, and I'm just like, oh, it's like Claire watch and that, but
No, quite often I'm doing nice things as well.
good, good.
Um, yeah. So I technically have a character who's a civil servant. That's
Mm.
what I'm usually out as, but that is my fig leaf to be able to go out and interfere in things. Um,
I think everyone needs that. Do you ever
and
get like any R&R just to walk away from everything in game and like go and sit in a character pub and just sit
so
down
that
and
character
watch?
is a Wintermarker, and I do have a hall in Wintermark with all my old mates in it. So sometimes I go and hide with them for an hour or so. But don't tell my boss.
Oh, and
And sometimes I get to play an NPC as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I've played a
You were
couple of
you were
NPCs.
Kayla, weren't you?
I was Kayla, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that was an epic scene. Oh, I
that's
remember that.
It
that's
was
cool.
one of my favourite things I've ever done. That.
Yeah.
That was yeah. It was an encounter tent, and we have Kayla on a throne or on you were kind of
I
there.
had a throne. Of course I had
Uh,
a throne. It was like
Kayla
Gormenghast. We used to have thrones.
Kayla is queen of the undead host, effectively, or the grim host, whatever you know. They're playing on endless motifs there about those kind of things. And we brought these 4 players into this tent, and we filled the tent with the host. There were just it was, you know, packed like sardines of all these people in kind of pale face makeup, and then
Yeah.
Kayla is there, and I you know. I wish we could do more encounter tent moments, because when you can pull them off that way and create these really high intensity visual and experiences, it's very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So Andy Raff is now in chat. He's just
Oh,
been,
no.
he's just been informed that his age was discussed. So Andy Raff the younger, I think we call him now.
Like
essentially.
Pitt the younger.
Like Pitt the younger. Yes.
I don't think that's going to work. I think
No.
Graham, in fact, Graham and Claire are technically the young people on PD. No,
Yeah.
Steve is the young person on PD's staff roster. Steve and Ali really are the young people. Then Claire and Graham, and then me and Raph are the old fuckers.
Experienced.
Experience like a fine wine.
Yeah.
Corked.
Yeah. I was
Corked.
about to say corked. Yeah, a corked fine wine. Jesus. That's Yeah, there were. I had loads of questions because we were initially going to talk about PvP things, and because I think speaking to a lot of new players that I do, I know me and Claire have had a long chat about this as well, where players are seemingly shocked that the game all LARPs have PvP elements, and people don't understand. They think a lot of it comes down to, I'm going to batter you with my axe or something like that. And that's not what all PvP is. And that, so I don't know. Do you want to use your experience to explain what PvP is, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really fascinating because I think when we set Empire up, we did a lot of work initially. Like, we did focus groups all around the country. We talked to people,
Okay.
and we sort of got the word out of what the game was going to be through Facebook and everything else.
Yeah.
And I think people came with a fairly good impression of what the game was going to be. And then what happened? We were like, right, we've done that. We've told everyone what the game is, and we don't need to worry about that anymore. And then 10 years went by, and thousands of new players came to Empire, and we haven't always been, and there's that realization, oh yeah, we need to keep telling people what the game is, because it's not always as clear as we think it is, certainly. And talking to like Jim Blackshaw, and he was like, yeah, people think your game is PVM, and I'm like, what? I think it's player versus monster. And he was pointing out, well, you go on big battles and fight monsters. It's pretty clear. And I was like, yeah, I can see why you would think that. So, PvP, classic player versus player. I think the other thing that's interesting is traditionally we would bring people in from LARP backgrounds. People would come to Empire who'd done other LARPs, and what we get now is people who've, hundreds and hundreds of people who've never done LARP before.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of them, and I'm going to speak now as an idiot because I don't know anything about online role playing games, but I know 1% about like World of Warcraft or whatever, and I think there's sort of image of PvP that's like spawn camping. It's like it's a PvP series where you're running around beating up every one other character, trying to nick their stuff and then spawn camp their body or whatever that even means. I don't know. And we're like, yeah, that's not the kind of PvP we're doing. But because that kind of PvP has quite a poor reputation, I think that people are like, well, PvP is just bad, right? You don't want that. But for us, Empire was always meant to be a really political game. It's a social game where you are interacting, and fundamentally, you're trying to get your way in a world where 3,500 other people have got a different idea of what should happen that weekend.
Yeah.
And so that's what we mean by PvP. We mean we want you to turn up at the game and be like, I want this to happen, and I just have to find a way to convince 3,500 other people that they want this to happen, and then I'll be sorted. And then to discover that everyone else has a different point of view, and that social interaction, the politics, the horse trading, the back and forth, the threatening, the intimidation, the bribery, the coercion, the lying, and all of that is kind of the plot of our game. Um, and there's a lot more to Empire than that. Claire talks about this a lot. There are a load of people who come to our game got no interest in the politics, and that's cool.
No.
It's like they're coming for the big battles, which is amazing, or they're coming for the social ambience of being able to live in the Empire world, also cool. But if you're coming for the Empire plot is this great political thing in which hundreds and hundreds of political characters kind of push their different agendas and try and get what they want to happen. And that's PvP. But for us, it's PvP political, it's PvP social. One of the things we really identified when we set Empire up, and we've moved more and more strongly in this direction over time, is we're not interested in PvP combat.
No.
We don't want, I've run games that were all about camp rolling at night and spawn camping and killing people's characters, and we were like, you know what? We're sick of doing that kind of PvP. We want to concentrate on the social, the dramatic arguments and the tense votes in the conclave.
Yeah.
That's the kind of PvP we want, not 16 people running into your tent at 10 to 1 in the morning to job you into the ground. We were like, oh, we're bored of that.
Yeah. So when I've had a chat with people where I like to do new player chats, especially where people who have never done Empire, they've never LARPed before, their role play experience is WoW or tabletop games and stuff like that. So obviously, with my experience, it's a lot of Vampire the Masquerade, which is very social political.
Yep.
And I love it. I absolutely love it. So I come to Empire for a break, and I play a very combat heavy character because that's different to what I used to do. So it's been quite fun. But people are very shocked with me. I don't know why I'm raising my hand like this all the time. I'll put that down.
Because he's doing it and you're mirroring him.
I can't keep still.
Yeah.
My hands.
So people are very shocked when I say to them, it's like, oh, I had this interaction. And they go, oh, so how did you deal with it? It's like, well, I lied. And they're like, you lied? It's like, but aren't we working against all of these? Are we working as an empire together? And these people, it's like, yeah. But he had what I wanted. I wanted.
Yeah, you and I talked about this the other day, didn't we? Because, yes, we all want the empire to be on top. But we want our nation to be on top of the empire. And we want our group to be on top of our nation. And we want us to be on top of that.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very much so. And I think a lot of people are shocked when this all comes up. And I think people are just like, they lied to me? It's like, yeah, no shit. They really do lie to me. It's like, have you met any of the senators in this game, by the way? Because I'm pretty certain 99% of them lie. Do you know what a politician is?
We've got the only honest politicians out there, I'm sure.
Well, you can think that. That's great. But
I'm
just preempting the emails.
Yes. Yeah, I have to say as well, I do apologise to chat. I know you're there. I have ignored most of what you've said so far, so I do apologise for that. If any of I think my wife is in chat as well as a mod. If there's any questions that come through, hun, can you just repost them for me and we'll go from there. But yeah, I think the PvP element of it all is very different to what a lot of people expect it to be. I do apologise, Claire, I interrupted you. But I think, so like a lot of players come in and they expect it to be the physical side of it. And it boils down to, it can be so simple and so basic of tea houses that you go to. The pubs. There's now like 200,000 pubs in the Marches, for example. When we all know that the best pub in the Empire is in Wintermark. It's definitely my pub. And that. So these are all PvP elements. You are looking to give your money over to a certain pub in a certain nation, but not another one. That is a PvP thing that you are doing because you are choosing to align with that. So these are all interesting elements that I find to it all, and I have definitely not used it to weaponize the game at all into things that I've been trying to get or send things in the other directions. And that, so, all right, there are a lot of questions, it turns out.
It's really interesting as well. People think, oh, they PvP, but it's one of LARP's irregular verbs. I play, everyone together. They PvP. All I did was Inquisition them. You realise that's PvP,
Massively.
right? All I did was curse their territory. You realise that's PvP, yeah? Curse is illegal in our game. Why are curses legal? PvP. Inquisitions, all of this stuff, revocation, excommunication, declaration of sorcery. The moment you're playing with any of these things, you're doing PvP. If you're getting an act of magic endorsed by the Conclave, you're getting it endorsed because some people aren't going to be very happy about it. And getting it endorsed is an act of PvP. Yeah. You're getting your social agenda through a political body that someone else might not want you to achieve. And so, because we've made this very, very political world, it is really political, and that catches people by surprise sometimes. And that can be unfortunate. It has downsides. If you look at the big plot we ran, not ran, but the plot that sort of span with Cold Sun, where it just kept getting crazier and crazier, and then it got really tense and really, really, really confrontational. And some players were like, that was a lot more PvP than I wanted. Thank you. And we're like, okay, we're sorry you had that experience. But for us, it's like trying to, you know, get it to the point where the goal is always to make PvP fun, because we don't run a game because it's fun. But not everyone will enjoy PvP. And what we try to do in Empire is be able to, you can basically opt in to be on that PvP. And I think the problem with that plot was it was so big and so dramatic that people were it was a juggernaut that basically hit people and they couldn't get out of the way. Which is, but that's going to happen occasionally in a very, very political game.
Because while you can opt out of a lot of the PvP, you can't opt out of all of it, as you say, because tea houses.
Yes.
But what you can't opt out of is playing in the world. And the things that people do that affect your part of the world will affect you no matter how much you've tried to disengage from PvP.
Yeah.
If you run your tea shop in Miaran and people's actions cause problems for Miaran, those actions will impact you.
Yeah.
So you can't. Yeah, you're still playing in the world even if you're not engaging with what you consider to be PvP.
Yeah, I really like the conversations that you have with people around it all, because obviously there are some things that happen that elicit a different response from a lot of the player base. So if we stick with the Cold Sun, for example, I went out on a skirmish with the Cold Sun and we annihilated them. It was not one casualty, and we absolutely decimated it, and it was really, really fun because we won. We came out of that skirmish and we walked. Unfortunately, I think this is something. I know that this is the skirmish that elicited a very negative response from people, because we walked out to the Navarre, who were going in a skirmish against the Cold Sun, and they turned around and said, "How was it?" And we were going, "Easy. Nothing happened. We walked all over them. No one's alive." They went in and lost 70% of their number. They got absolutely annihilated. So, and a lot of things were going on. And of course, there's the whole rumour mill that surrounds, because LARPers.
There's LARPers, bless them.
So, I got a question because I think it's important to be dealt with. If it's a find out in play question, just say it's find out in play, and because I have very much a strict thing on that, I don't want to deal on the plot. But a lot of this conversation has bled into the OC area. Funny that. So a lot of people are saying that the refs broke the rules of the game when the Cold Sun ignored some mass calls that happened on them. Is that true?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So, first thing you got to appreciate is LARP is an imperfect hobby, and shit goes wrong.
Yes.
That's problem number one. So, periodically, shit goes wrong, and we, as PD, we deal with it all the time. And anyone who says I run a large LARP and nothing ever goes wrong is a liar, because we have 3,500 moving parts, and to make them all work the right way takes some. So. We briefed our monsters, and somebody got a word wrong on one of the briefings, and some of the monsters thought it meant X, and some of the monsters thought it went Y.
Right.
The mass weakness goes off, and some of the monsters thought, well, I'm out of range because it's only 20 feet. I think it's 20 feet. It's 20 feet. And the problem, of course, is that the player's estimation of 20 feet is probably closer to 35 feet. Not trying to be funny, but as a player, you always think, oh yeah, they're all in range. So everyone who was out of range was like, well, I'm not affected. And two or three of the monsters who were in range were like, oh, I don't take this call because of this weird briefing I've had. And that was never the intention. There is not supposed to be anything in Empire that can resist a call unless it is a specific large monster called out as explicitly that it does that. So it's just a fuck up. It was just a fuck up, and it made that skirmish harder than it should have been.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hate it when it happens, but let's be honest.
We're all
I
human.
don't. Now they're going to turn up and just give you a load of bullshit because I can't be doing with that. If you start lying to people about stuff, you just end up chasing your tail. So yeah, there was, and we've said this in a few emails to people. Yeah, it was a fuck up.
Yeah.
And we were, I mean, behind the scenes, we went ballistic about it. We're like, and then and then we we fixed it for the next event, and then people were like, oh, they downstatted them, and it's like, yes, we have fixed a mistake that happened.
I've got. I'll take my hat off. I really appreciate the honesty. I really, really do, and because I think it's easier to get it sorted, just to be honest, and and move on. A lot of people have died after that from the cold sun when things have been corrected. So
Yeah,
sucks to be them. At the end of the day, it sucks, but it's a hard enemy. It really is, and I'm looking forward to. Actually, because this is my first proper event that I'm allowed to fight again, so I'm really looking forward to being able to do that.
our skirmishes and our battles are periodically tough. It's interesting. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who's involved in one of the big, not involved, but has been involved and just recently returned to one of the big German games. They're big. I think Conquest of Mythidia is 7,000 players. Drakenfest 4,000. There's a big battle and blah blah blah. And I sort of said, "Yeah, do the players ever lose the big battle?" And he was like, "No, I don't think they ever have." And I was like, "Yeah, never have, never have." And the point is, if you can't lose, there's no triumph.
No.
If you can't lose, if there's no possibility of failure, then there was no possibility of success because the two states exist in opposition to each other. And I want the players to win every single battle, and I want them to triumph in every single skirmish because I want them to come off going, yeah,
But by the skin of their teeth, yeah.
but basically, that's the experience you want to give as a LARP organizer to every single player. You want them to come off frothing about how amazing it was and be like, we did it by the skin of our teeth. But if you fudge your game so that every outcome exactly comes out like that, after a while, people are like, funny how that happens every single time.
Yeah.
And
It gets boring.
the truth comes out that actually people weren't surviving by the skin of the teeth. In fact, that was all just preset, and that was always going to be the outcome. So what we do is we go, some of these skirmishes are hard, and you might not win, and that's rough. It's really rough. You've got to bring your A game to a battle. You've got to bring your A game to a skirmish, because you're risking your character, and you could die. And as you say, you went on one and kicked Cold Sun's ass. We would never ever run something and go like, oh, let's just make it impossible. That is antithesis of what we would do. We want the players to win, but we want that possibility of failure. So
I mean, I've been in a lot of battles and a lot of skirmishes over like my time at Empire, and my favourite battle or skirmish that I've ever done was a Wintermark one, the Donut of Death, where we got our faces kicked in. That has been the best battle I have ever done. That was, no one knew who was surviving. No one knew how we were going to get out. We looked to people for to do anything, and no one did a thing. And we stood there and we got absolutely mullered, to the point of where the orcs we were against conveniently, very conveniently, opened up a gap for us so we could leg it. And that was.
Did they do that for safety reasons, or did they do it for IC reasons? And who were you fighting?
You don't have to answer that question.
It was. I can't remember who we were fighting. All the battles sort of merge into one for me.
Yeah, fair. It's really kind of interesting because the Yatoon will often let you leave the field. They're honourable, they're X, they're Y, they're like, we've beaten you, you may go. and there's reasons for that, and there's in-character and out-of-character reasons. The Druge, not so much. No. Druge are not very nice people. But we also had a scenario where sometimes we're like, oh, we've got these players completely surrounded, and if we crush and kill them all, it's going to be out of character dangerous. So occasionally my refs will step in and be like, yeah, out of character safety, open up the back of the donut and let those people flee.
I think it was,
and it's a shame.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I would love to see a battle where everybody who goes on that battle is dead. Have a complete annihilation. It's like, so Dawn need to re-roll. Sorry. It's always Dawn. They're not very good.
Oh,
So
They
that
I
had
don't
is all
think
my...
Wintermark can say that.
Well,
They had a brutal battle. I can't remember when it was. It might have been just before the pandemic or just after the pandemic. And they went onto the battlefield and then they went into the woods to achieve this battlefield objective. They overstretched. The orcs came in, hit them in the
yeah.
flank, and dozens and dozens of Dornish characters died. And they were like, "What the hell was that?" And like, well, battles can be dangerous
Yeah.
if you don't bring your A game. They can be really dangerous.
That was that was after the pandemic. I think that was the second event after the
I think
pandemic.
it was, yeah.
So I remember that one. But I also got to witness as well the wonderful Wintermark versus the War Rhino, where the War Rhino marched on and Wintermark marched it on, and they met. One was made up of very squishy people, the other one wasn't. And that was a lot of fun to witness, because I was just stood at the side as while I was monstering that fight and just watched. And we were just like, this battle's over. This is over.
Interestingly, though, you talk about, so if we look at something like a battle structurally, that is a PVM fight. We've got 500-600 monsters, and the players have gone on to fight them. So you go, well, this is just a PVM encounter. What are you talking about, Matt? There's no PvP happening here. Well, not so fast. Every single one of the nations that's gone on as that player has brought a different amount of resources to that battle. Some of them will be like, this objective is really, really important to us. We're going to bring every mana crystal, every potion, every herb. We're going to throw everything at this because we want this. Some of those nations might come onto that battle and be like, yeah, we don't really give a shit about this objective. We'll turn up. But if it starts looking hairy, we're out of here. That is PvP. The moment you can't rely on your allies to fight the good fight as strongly as you need them to win, you're in a PvP situation. It doesn't seem like it. Seems like a PVM fight. But actually, to triumph there, you needed to be in their camp, getting them really, really riled up, going, yeah, we need to support Wintermark. Wintermark need this. We all need to be out there and throw everything at it. And if you don't, you might find that that nation goes, yeah, I don't fancy it today. Let's all go back to Anvil, lads. And then you're on your own, and then you are.
Yeah.
So even in a PVM fight, in the middle of a gigantic hour-long PVM fight, from PD's point of view, we're doing PvP with you all the time. We're, it's like, and so it's the constant background in everything that's happening.
But you also get with the PvP elements, the time where a specific nation, who will remain unnamed, mainly because I've forgotten which nation it was, but they fucked off the Imperial Orcs so badly that they came to a time to go onto the battle, and the Orcs refused. They actually refused to take the field, and that was amazing. I never thought I would actually see anything like that. But it leads on, because there was a question. It wasn't asked tonight, but there was a question that I was asked to actually ask you earlier. I think it was a couple of days ago. Someone said it, but it was: are PD prepared for if, say the Marches and Dawn, they don't get on so badly that they stand up to fight each other, and their soldiers actually do go off to attack each other. They arrange to meet in the field, and they go off to have a proper good old scrap like that. Is PD prepared for that potential eventuality, or are there things in place?
For sure. I mean, that our background was running games where that happened every event.
Maelstrom.
Yeah,
quite.
mostly to me.
Mostly to you, quite.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I haven't done it. I think it was just after the pandemic, but I sort of stopped for a while. I was actually pushing for civil war within Wintermark, and it was really fun. I was really enjoying it, because no one likes the Suak at the end of the day.
How very dare you!
It's
Matt,
fine.
we're going.
It's fine, because the Steiner are worse.
Storm out.
Yeah, okay, we can compromise on that.
Yeah, so the Steiner are even worse. They just turn up late and claim all the credit. So there's a lot of stuff like that, and I really enjoyed bringing that little bit of chaos, having a little word here and stuff like that to get people involved. But how would you do? So like if Urizen, example, lose their last territory, how's that?
Yeah.
How's that going to be affected in game? Are Urizen going to be allowed to still be represented in the field? Are they going to be? What's going to happen with them?
We haven't sat down. I mean, we do a lot of scenario
Mm.
workshopping, where you go, well, what if, what if, what if? I mean, basically, there's half a dozen of us who work full time on the game. So we talk about the game a lot. I
Yeah.
don't think we've ever talked about what would happen if one nation just lost all its territories. And it's an interesting question. It's come close. I mean, both Urizen and the Brass Coast have been in some pretty sticky situations. And weirdly, Wintermark was also down to 2 territories at one point. I don't think anyone's ever gone below 2 territories, but I think Urizen were on 2, and then we invaded one of their territories with a gigantic force of Truge. Again, another classic PvP, because you think, well, you're being invaded by monsters, how's that PvP? But there's enough armies to defend the Empire, but you have to get your way in the military council to get them over to your nation to defend your nation. So if you're getting invaded and you're getting beaten up, it's because those armies are somewhere else. Now, what would happen? We haven't workshopped what we would do, and it's an interesting. I don't look at it and think, oh, the game would just fall apart. But the one we workshopped a lot in the first 2 or 3 years was, what if the Empire just lose and the Orcs take everything? There's nothing left, and we're like, well, I think we'll be like, new game. It's Empire: The Resistance, and you'll be meeting, and they'll be like Orc Overlords, and you'll be like, you'll have to sort of, they'll be like, instead of battles, it'll be like, we're going to attack the Orc camp and try and like burn it down, and like, raids and stuff, and it would basically be Empire. It'd be like Star Wars playing the Resistance instead of
They
Star
did
Wars
get
playing the
dangerously
Empire.
close to Anvil, didn't they?
They did at one point, yes. So we thought about that. We literally workshop, well, what would we do if the Empire just lost everything? And we're like, yeah, we think we could keep playing the game. There'll need to be some changes. Some things won't work right, but we're pretty sure we can make it work.
I think.
And we had a very hurried conversation about what we do if the Imperial Orcs join Wintermark.
Yep.
A very hurried conversation.
I think that would be amazing.
I think
more
key...
allies against the Suak.
Have you read your brief, Steve?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Three nations.
He's not reading the room,
or whatever the room.
It's yeah. No, there is reasoning I see behind it all.
Pulling your leg.
It's because basically the Suak are so clever and smart and quick-witted that the others are just jealous.
That's fair.
Are we talking about the same Suak here?
If you're going to run a game and go, we're going to let whatever the players take it, we're going to go with it. You can't have any sacred cows. No. I have run games where the players push the big red button and everyone dies. Rocks fall, everyone dies. And we go, right, rocks fall, everyone dies. That's the end of the game. We're done now. And everyone's like, hey, what? I'm like, well, that player over there pushed the big red button. Rocks fall, everyone dies. And you can't... one of our dogma for our game is do not run an end of the world plot, because PD will not run an end of the world plot under any circumstances where if the players fail to stop it, we don't follow through and end the world.
Yeah.
Right? There's no circumstances where we would run an end of the world plot unless we were absolutely prepared to go, yeah, you didn't stop it, everyone's dead. Rocks fall, everyone dies. So if you're not prepared to do that, and we don't want to blow up the Empire world, don't run an end of the world plot. But actually, of course, you could argue the war against the Orcs and the Druge and the Yutun and what have you is an end of the world plot on one level. Certainly, those Orcs would like to end the Empire. But I think the point is, don't have sacred cows. No. If you feel like everything, the game must work like this, and the boxes must line up like this, then you go, oh, but what if the players do that? It breaks the sacred order. And if you don't care if the players break the sacred order, then you don't need to. Oh my God, what are we going to do? Many years ago,
back to lose. Go on. I was going to say it's back to losing battles, isn't it? There's no point unless the consequence is real. Or potential consequences real.
I got my start running my very first game 25 years ago, and back then a lot of LARPs ran by having very powerful NPCs who you basically couldn't kill.
Yes.
And they would sort of go round and they'd go, the story is that way. That sort of little exclamation marks above their head, you were like, and you couldn't kill them. They were invulnerable. They functioned as levers for the organisers to control the game. So I set our new game up with my friends, and we're running this game, and we put some wizards in who looked a bit like they might be unkillable NPCs. And at the first event, the players tried it on. A group of rats jumped one of these wizards, dobbed him into the floor, murdered him, and then he was dead. And one of my team radios over, going, oh my God, they've killed the X. And I'm like, yeah, thanks. And he clearly thought I must not have got it. As he ran into my plot office, he's like, they've killed him. And I was like, great. I was kind of hoping someone would. It was kind of put there so that players could go, wait a minute, in this game we can destroy the scenery. It was like, I'm not, it's not wrecked the game, dude. It's like, we just carry on. Everything's fine. Some guy died. Everything's fine. But you've got to give up control. You've got to be happy that some shit happened and you're like, didn't expect that, or and it would be difficult if Urizen lost all their territories. We'd be like, oh my God. But the Orcs didn't have any territories for a long time.
No, this is
so
true.
Actually, clearly it works. The game still functions. It's difficult, and some bits of it don't quite fit right.
Yeah.
But the game still works. So if you think, oh, PD won't let a nation lose all their territories, you should probably go and speak to anyone who's been playing in the Imperial Orcs since the start of the game and say, can you play in a nation without any territories? Because they will go, yeah, you can.
Yeah, do love the Orcs. Really do. So I'm gonna start with the questions because I dread to think how far ahead chat are of me now. So what was the hardest thing to design about Empire back in the beginning, and what has been the hardest thing to scale recently?
What was the hardest thing to design?
You can say Dawn because they're just
None of the nations were hard, but they were all difficult. But they were all equally difficult because you write them and then you iterate and then you iterate and you iterate and you just keep throwing yourself at them until you're happy with the results. Go, yeah, that's cool. I'd want to play one. I love Dawn, one of my favourite nations.
I know, that's why I keep bringing them up. I remember you saying.
Yeah. And Andy periodically bollocks me because Dawn get a lot of briefing material that I sometimes write a little bit too much. Anyway, that's fine. I love Dawn. And that's why they have such a hard time of it in game, because I'm a tough love parent. No, that's not true. We try and treat all the nations equally. People who think one nation.
There. Yep.
People who think one nation getting a rough time it's like they will be within any given moment. When Urizen were getting invaded by the Druge, they were having a really rough time. At any given moment, someone is getting the shitty end of the stick without a shadow of a doubt. It doesn't equal out in the moment, but over time, we just, we try and treat the nation the same. So it wasn't a nation. What was the hardest thing to design? That's really interesting. Let me think. I'd have to think. You're talking about 10 years ago. We designed the game 10 years ago. So,
you were very intense straight away that you didn't want gods.
Yeah.
That was for definite.
Yeah.
I think the spells were the hardest thing in the whole game to design.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do spells well in LARP. It's really easy to do spells badly in LARP. It's really hard to do them well. You always want a beautiful system with loads of spells, and then you go, yeah, this is.
Yeah.
We ended up with far less spells than we wanted because we didn't want spells that didn't work or couldn't function in the game. And even now, there's a couple of spells you shouldn't really the cut. So spells.
Can you name them?
No.
Yeah.
No, and if you ask the three of them, they'd all give you different ones.
Yes, yeah. Because if we all agreed, we'd change the game. One of the things you'll see with Empire is periodically we go, actually, we're going to change that part of the game because it's not working. So whenever we all agree that something's broken, we take it out and try and fix it. The thing that is giving us the most headache at the moment is Synod. Jonathan Kidger, who is our civil servant running the synod, is doing amazing, amazing, amazing. But it is Sisyphean. He is pushing a boulder up a hill that is simply getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and that the synod worked wonderfully with 1,300 players. It worked fine with 1,800 players. It worked okay with 2,200 players. Now we're at 3,000 players, and there are increasing problems. And I think at some point I have to step in and go, okay, we need to change the way this works, because the scale of the game has got so big that it needs a different approach. And that will happen. So that's Synod. Synod is the bit that's giving me these scaling problems.
Is the scaling of the game, is that reason why like the challenge the Iron Duke was removed?
100%, 200%, 200%. Yeah, the problem is, so we talk about levers. We talk a lot about levers. A lever is a thing the player can pull that makes a thing happen in the game. Most of the time at Empire, you're interacting with other players. You don't need PD to come over and say, excuse me, that player has used his bargain skill on you now, so you need to lower your sales price of that item by 10%. I've played in games that do that, by the way, and they work great for 30 players. Would not 3,000. I don't think I couldn't make it work for 3,000 players. No. Most of the time, you're interacting with other players, and most of the time, PD has no fucking clue what you are doing, and doesn't want to know. I talk about the interface, that the anvil is kind of a sealed, homogenous, a sealed environment where players are interacting with players and doing amazingly important things, and PD has no idea of what you're doing until you pull a lever. Pulling a lever means passing a Senate motion. Pulling a lever is getting a judgment passed in the synod. It's casting a ritual. It is mixing a potion. It can be as small as casting a 6-point enchantment, or it can be as big as electing the Empress. But all the levers are basically wired up to a giant board backstage, and when you pull that lever, a little light flashes, and we go, oh, they've done that. Right. Now they've done that, we respond with this. So fine, that's how the game works. That's how it's, and if you look at it, you can see that's how it works. You pass a Senate motion, PD gathers up all the Senate motions you've passed, and at the end of the weekend we process them all, and then for the next event we go, right, the world is like this now. Fine. The problem is most of the levers are fixed. There's only so many Senate motions. There's only so many declarations. There's only so many bourse seats. There's only so many X. And so the game is about getting access to the levers and pulling them the way you want. And then PD doesn't have to go, oh my God, they're pulling too many levers, we can't cope. The problem with Challenge the Iron Duke was you could pull it as many times as you wanted. As if you had enough mana and enough ritualists. So as the game doubled in size, there were twice as many ritualists and twice as much mana. So players were just pulling the lever twice as much. And we couldn't keep up. We just couldn't keep up. So basically, the scaling broke that ritual, and we were like, this is no good. And it wasn't broken at the point we took it out, but it was collapsing under the strain at the point we took it out. And we're like, right, stop doing that. We're going to take that out. We'll take it out of the game for a year, redesign it, and we'll either bin it or we'll bring it back. And we got some ideas. But it's the point is, for us at the scale we're at, the levers have to be fixed in number. If all 3,000 players could pull as many levers as they like, all our lights would just be stroboscopic in the plot room.
It would be too much. No, it'd be way too much. Because I remember back in the day, so E1 year one, when we turned up and no one had a clue. The refs didn't have a clue either. And it was wonderful. It was so good because everybody just no one had a clue, but we all didn't have a clue together. And that was a really, really fun part of it because we were finding out how to play the game. We were finding out how to do it all. And we'd say to a ref, how do we do this? And they're like, I have no idea. I will radio in and ask, and then I'll come back to you in an hour. And they would do that. And we would come back and be like, Okay, so I'm going to go and start an argument with a different nation, and you'd wander off, and you'd have arguments about military stuff that you had no clue what was going on at the moment, but other political stuff. But that was really, really good, and you felt like a kid in a candy shop, and it was really, really good. But I think the key thing about all of this, everything you said with the levers and the lights and all of that, it's all PvP again.
Yeah.
Because I want this Senate motion to go through. I want this Synod thing. I want these lights to go off over here with this Eternal, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, but so does like 200 other players. You now need to go and fix that with them and try to sort that out. And that's a very, very interesting thing as well, because people who don't want to get involved in the PvP side of things, it's a tough one. It's a real tough one, because you may not think of it as PvP, but it 100% is PvP. So it's back to it's the tea house again, isn't it?
Yes, because suddenly you turn around and your tea house has made an awful lot of money over those 2 or 3 years, and you've got a clout that you didn't expect to have.
Yeah. I mean, there is actually a tea house that has done that, and they were very, very good, and now they are almost intrinsic to a specific nation's entire economy. So that's very much find out in play for a lot of people watching. So I don't want to ruin that part of the game, because it's a very fun game at the moment.
I was, fascinated to see Menier's Fate talking about economics, and I'm really excited to see what they do with that. But for us, economics is PvP. That's just what it is, because economics is scarcity. And scarcity says there aren't enough resources for everybody to get what they want here. There are enough resources for some of the things that some of the people want. They're just quite deliberately, by profound decisions, as a game design choice, are not enough resources for everybody to get what they want. And again, one of the things that's interesting, we go back now to some of where people don't appreciate that, where they come into the game. You get the impression that sort of people think the point of money in Empire is so that they will have enough that they can just go around all the bars and be able to eat and drink all weekend without spending their real money, as if that's why PD was giving you the coins. And it's like, no. That is not why we have given you the coins. We've given you the coins quite deliberately to create a player economy where money is moving and where there isn't enough money for everybody to do what they want. And what you do with that money is PvP. The fact that you can buy a pint with your money is a side effect. But if you think that was the point of the money, you're like, well, there isn't enough. Why isn't PD giving me enough money? This doesn't make sense. But it's like, no, point of the money is the PvP over here. That's why we want to talk about PvP more, because it's the thing that's really important to remember is, like, PvP is just one style of LARP. Not everyone likes it. I love it. That's why I run it as a game, but not everybody does. And other LARPs are available. And the point is, you've got to try and tell people as well you can. This is the game. This is what you can expect, and then people can decide if that's what they want to play.
And I think that what you can expect bit is really important, because we don't want people to assume that PvP means violent PvP.
No.
Yeah, just and it can do in Empire, but it's not. It's not the main. It's not the emphasis.
No, you don't need to. I mean, PvP is for everything. So I've been very vocal on. I have murdered player characters out there. I was literally top of the list for the militia for a period of a couple of years. So anytime anyone was killed, they'd come knocking on my door, and that was great roleplay. I really enjoyed it. So there was a character called Achilles, who was one of the rich movers and shakers in the field. He was murdered in a battle. And thankfully, that was an event where I had buggered my back and I could barely move. And I was just sat there. I still got arrested for his murder, and they couldn't do anything. So a magistrate had to come down to my camp to see me because I couldn't walk. That was great. And literally, he turned up and he said, "When you think this guy was just in the battle and murdered someone, he can't walk." That was great. I was immediately let off the hook. But an entire nation, Urizen, hated me with a passion. But with the PvP side of it as well, is there was an incident where it wasn't violent in any way, shape or form. It happened in a battle. Someone had allowed my character's brother to be killed. and they were worried about what I was going to do to them in game. And I turned up, did nothing. I said, "Oh, it's fine. Yeah, we'll forget about it." And then I found them in the battle, bleeding out, and they were just lying there. And they said, "Are you going to help me up?" I was like, "Nah." I said, "I'm going to be the last thing you see before you die." And then I left them there. And that was it. And then I even robbed them, and I picked their stuff up, and I walked off of the field, and I walked up to their group, and they said, "Did you see her?" I'm wearing her necklace at the time. All okayed with the player. And they said, "Did you see her?" I was just like, "Nah." Walked away. Eventually came back, and the player was okay with me destroying this thing. It was a little wooden feather.
Yeah.
And I walked up to their camp, and I just went, "I think this is hers." Oops. And I dropped it in the fire, and I walked off. And that was it. It was brutal. Absolutely brutal roleplay. But I loved it. It was so much fun. And the player who died, she thought it was hilarious because she got to watch her entire group just like, "We don't know how to respond to this." The roleplay was insane. It was really, really fun to do. But there was, obviously, I had a lot of conversations with people about this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And there were things taken into. I wouldn't ever walk up to someone and just go, "I'm about to kill your character," and just do it on the spot, because that's a dick move. So I've done it a lot, but I have had permission from everyone it's happened with. And
I think that you hit something really, really important there, because there's a way you could play PvP and be a dick, right? If fundamentally, what you get out of LARP is other people's tears, you're probably a bit of a dick, and you should find a different hobby.
yeah,
For me, when I PvP, I want that dramatic confrontation, and I want you to go away going, "Oh, that was amazing."
yeah,
I don't want you to go away going, "Yeah, that guy's I want you to think I'm a knob in character, not out of character.
yeah,
And that can be hard, because bleed is a thing.
mm,
You're gonna feel your character's emotions. You are gonna feel your character's emotions, and you have to be able to step away from that. But I think so. There's people need to learn to PvP and be able to go, "Oh, that was an attack on my character. Wasn't an attack on me."
yeah,
And that takes a little bit of experience, takes
yeah,
a bit of time for some people. You also need to learn how to PvP in ways where you pick your moments, or like you did, where you speak to people, you go, "I'm gonna really fuck you over. Are you okay with this?" Where you have that conversation, because you think, you know what? This is going to be no fun. If this person is just upset out of character, this is going to be no fun. So why are you going to do it?
yeah,
If they want you want to give them a cool moment too, and
yeah,
you can use a little bit of sensitive out of character conversation to just check in with people and talk to people, check they're okay with it. I think if you're experienced, for me, I tend to do more political, more confrontational, social rather than physical.
mm,
And I'm always kind of got my little radar senses on, thinking, "Are you enjoying this? Can I dial it up? Should I dack it off?" If I was shouting at someone in their face and I got even the slightest hint, hang on, that then this scene is not good for them, you pull it back. You just pull it back. And to me, and some people are like, "Oh, the purity of the scene." The purity of the scene. It's like we are creating a collaborative story. We're doing PvP so that our characters are in conflict, not so our players are in conflict.
yeah,
I want to find ways to role play with you and oppose you that make your event awesome. I want you to be like, "I'll get that bastard next time," not "That Pennington guy's a dick." So you want to find, and you get experienced, I think, and you can get experienced at finding ways to PvP
yeah,
that, are not about fucking people over so much as creating dramatic moments, like they've killed your character and then you're going to find this terrible brutal way. Leaning over someone and being like, "My face is the last face you're ever going to see." I mean, I would pay money to have that experience. I'd be like, "That's amazing." I once got murdered at a LARP. I didn't get murdered. I can't remember. I ended up dead. That happens to me at a lot of LARPs because my characters cause trouble. I ended up dead. And a guy called Pete, who was just a blast. Can't remember. Might be Pete Bridges. Can't remember his name now. He's like, "Yeah, right. I steal your shoes." And he's like, "In character, I steal your shoes." And I was like, and he's like, "What?" And it's like, and he's like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "You're stealing my shoes. you know. And he's like, yeah, I can't really take your shoes. And I was like, oh yes, you can. You've murdered me. You can take my shoes. And he's like, okay, this is cool. So he starts stealing my shoes off my dead body, and he's running around with my dead character's shoes. And I'm like, I'm cool with this. This is like, I was murdered and I had my shoes. That scene in Game of Thrones where he takes the dead man's shoes.
Yeah,
I've been that dead man,
that's
and
really
it's
cool.
amazing. That's a great scene, but he didn't just start taking my freaking shoes. He had a subtle conversation with me, and I was like,
Yeah,
yeah, it's okay. I'm good with this. Check in with people and find ways to make it fun. Find ways
that's
to
the
make the
big thing.
confrontation as cool for everyone as you can,
Yeah,
because we're collaborating.
yeah,
That's what we talk about in the new player meeting. We basically want everybody to have a good story to tell when they're in the pub next week.
yes.
The person who did it and the person it happened to. Everybody should have a good story about it.
That's the big thing I always talk about for new players is you're going to come out of this and say you'll think you have done nothing, but you'll sit down and have a conversation with someone about your last event, and it's full of stories. That's why we do this. We want the stories. We come out of this with stories. It's all about the stories that we're going to get, and I mean I love them all. And I think if we go back to touch on bleed for a bit, I had it's like so I lost my character, as you know, Mac. I played for a very, very long time. It was an unfortunate thing, but it happened. And I left on the Saturday. I literally went home Saturday afternoon because the bleed was so much. As I thought I was fine. And then my friend Kit came over and was like, "You all right?" I just cried my eyes out. And I was just like, "Yeah, I need to go home. I'm not right to be here. I can't now pretend to be someone else and all that. So I'm not right." So we did.
Oh,
Went
you
home.
put time and emotion and effort into your
Exactly.
characters, and you are them for so long
Yeah.
that of course, you should be emotionally attached to them.
Definitely, but this is why I'm saying it's good. You check in on people. So everyone I've had any form of PvP with, that is going to involve me, because I'm very loud in the field, and I can be. I know I keep getting told I can be intimidating if I'm up in someone's face. So if I'm going to do that with anybody, I want to check in. I want to make sure that they're fine with it. Some people I know I'm fine with it because I've known them for years and years and years, and I know they're all right with it. Other people you have to check in with, because if you don't check in, I could walk up to a brand new player, scream and shout in their face, threaten them, and then all of a sudden they're knocking on Claire's door or Emma's door going, "I've just had this experience, what a prick he is,"
Yeah.
or that. And then yeah, that's yeah, I mean,
So,
yeah.
can I go serious for a moment? So,
Yes.
we require check ins in two situations.
Okay.
We require you to check in after you've been involved in loud, in your face, aggressive role play with somebody. And if you're not sure if you have been or not, that means you have and you should check in.
Right.
And the idea with that is we want you to check in with each other. We want you to establish each other as real people, and that was something your characters did, not you or the people did. And the other time we want you to check in is before you initiate romantic roleplay,
Oh yeah.
which should be fairly self-evident. Why?
Yeah. Yeah. Funny enough, I was having a chat with a couple of people today, and romantic roleplay was brought up, and it's it's not for everyone. Um, I'm gonna say, and I think that people might be upset by this, but some people can't read social cues, and you might take the effect of some romantic interaction the wrong way. So if you're unsure, please ask. Please ask, because safety is it's a massive thing across the board. You don't want to initiate romantic roleplay with someone who says, "Oh yeah, this is my character," and then out of character they're going off, and you're thinking, "But you told me you loved me." You don't want that sort of. You don't want
No,
that.
you really don't.
Exactly that.
Yeah, you don't want that.
But I think Claire's hit a nail on the head. That's really important. Because our game is hyper political, we don't require checking all the time. If I know you've got a Senate motion coming in the Senate and I really want to shoot that down, I go out all weekend, work in the field, and going, yeah, vote against Hefty Yeti, vote against Hefty Yeti, and then you get to the floor and it bombs. I don't need to check in. That doesn't mean it isn't good. It doesn't mean I don't. Oh, sorry, Steve, that was amazing. I worked my ass off. I'm so sorry. you can check in, but you don't have to. And there are some players who've kind of read our conduct rules and just assumed any PvP must be checked in, and that isn't the case. The check-in is required at the point where you would be doing something that violated our conduct rules if it was out of character. So if I am bullying you and physically bullying you and physically intimidating you, that is absolutely unacceptable if it's out of character. It's only acceptable in character if I'm checking in with you about it and you're like, yeah, I'm cool with you doing this. You don't, and so, but check-ins are good. We encourage them. We say, look, it's really, really positive. We're running a PvP game with 3,500 people. It works best when we're all talking to each other. But you can't say, oh, that's a requirement. You can't PvP my character unless you get my permission. That isn't how Empire works because it is an avowedly PvP game. We require check-in and approval, and that's an important point. Check-in is like, oh, I'm really sorry I did this, or I hope it's, I thought the classic way to check in with someone where you've just blocked their characters to go, that was amazing, you were incredible in that scene, the role playing was incredible, I hope it was okay for you. Start with a compliment. Just tell them how great they were and how much you think they're the best LARPer you've met all this weekend, because if there's any bleed happening, they might think you think they're a dick, and that's why you've blocked their character. They might think you've gone after them as a player. So the first thing you want to do is stress to them, no, you're great. I had a huge amount of fun role playing with you. That's why I went up against your character, because it was so much fun to do that, because you're such a great role player. Talk to people and establish it's not you I'm PvPing, it's your character. But if someone says, look, I'm not really up for that, you go, right, that's fine. I will avoid confrontations with you. I'll avoid that. I'll still going to oppose your character because you're trying to do something and I want to do the opposite, but I'll stay well out of your way and I'll oppose you politically in other ways.
Yeah.
That's reasonable. But if you go to someone and go, I really want to do a big scene where I'm going to ball you out in the Senate and I'm going to be like in your face, and they go, no, don't do that, then that's it. You can't do that.
No.
That is, you need their permission to do that. If you're going to be in their
No.
face,
You need to check in afterwards.
you do need to check
According
in
to our
afterwards.
rules.
You do need to check in afterwards. You're right. But if you checked in afterwards and they said, yeah, I really didn't enjoy that, please don't ever do that again, and you did it again, we would come down on you like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, and if you click halfway through it that they're not enjoying it, just back off.
Just back off.
It's a lot of it's common sense at the end of the day. So I've had role play where I've checked in on someone, and this was early on. I was going for to be a general in Navarre, and we agreed that it was gonna become a big argument. We know it's gonna become a big argument. We're those sorts of characters, and that's what we did. When we started off, we were screaming and shouting at each other. We were nose to nose. Literally, I had his spit on my beard. We were screaming that intensely at each other, and then you could just see something in his eyes just sort of stopped. So we sort of backed away and stuff like that, and he came over afterwards and just said, "I really didn't like that." And I was just like, yeah, you could tell you sort of weren't there halfway through, and he was just like, I really want this thing. So we had a long chat about it all. He was a newer player.
Yep.
So I stood down. I stood back, and I let him go for it.
Very sportsman.
He was killed in the next skirmish, but it didn't really matter. The point was still there. But yeah, he didn't like that sort of role play. Doesn't do that role play anymore. I think he's now a senator somewhere. He's changed nation. I think he went to Urizen. But
I'd had the opposite experience where I was playing a game. A friend of mine runs Jacobite, which is a fantastic game. For me, very political. And I'm playing this awful character. He is just the worst. He's, modelled on. If you've seen, it doesn't matter. He's a terrible character, and basically, but he's quite a cerebral character. He's in a world full of like big damn heroes. He is a conniving little sniveling little shit, basically.
One time.
And yeah, this character came in and started shouting at me because I'd basically strung this woman had committed a crime. I was involved with the police. I'd strung her along all weekend that if she did everything I said and cooperated fully, that she'd be fine. And then when she was no more use to me, I hauled her off and sent her down to prison. And he was quite upset that I'd done that, understandably. So he's giving me like a lot of energy of I'm really mad at your character, and I'm being quite quiet in response because my character is quite quiet. And I thought, and I could sense he thought Matt is not enjoying this. Matt, I could feel he was worried he was going too hard. And I thought, oh no, you don't know me at all. So I just turned on a dime and came out with like, if you want a shouting match, I'll give you a shouting match. And then we were face to face in each other's face, and people are dragging us off before blows come. And afterwards, he was like, that was amazing. He was like, I weren't sure you were into it. I was like, yeah, I could tell you wasn't sure I was into it. That's why I did that, because you needed that energy. You were shouting, and I wasn't giving you anything to play off. I was a cold fish, and it wasn't making the scene work. It just wasn't actually much fun for me to play my cold fish character. You, at the point where you're shouting and screaming at me, you need to get a reaction out of me. So I gave it to you, and but that's about the empathy. It's
Yeah.
about reading the other player and thinking, what's going to make your game in this moment? This will improve it. I'll do that. I'll do that.
So how few of your questions have we answered, Steve?
I think we've gone through one. We've done
a record.
I think for a Matt stream, this is we've done really, really well. So I do apologise to chat for that. So I suppose this question is kind of linked to the levers thing as well. So was there a particular trigger in the current state of the game that caused the introduction of the cold sun as an enemy?
So I've explained this a couple of times to people. We write every event as a state. We had no idea the cold sun plot would end up where it did. Zero plan for that whatsoever. None. Okay. Zero. I think we said, okay, we're doing a plot in which Ilinrith is basically doing this thing and having this interaction, and then Ilinrith says, don't poke this, it'll be bad. And that is a deliberate Pandora's box plot. It's like we go over here, and in a high fantasy game, the correct thing to do is to go and poke that thing immediately.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens in every high fantasy. But in Empire, which has quite low fantasy roots in parts, generally, if someone says, yeah, don't put your hand in the blender, it's bad. If you put the hand in the blender, what comes out is a bloody mangled stump. So it's a kind of, it's temptation. Can you resist? So the players open Pandora's box and out pops Cold Sun, and Cold Sun goes, rah, I am Cold Sun, I'm here to destroy you. And in theory, the players could have gone, yeah, whatever. It wasn't going anywhere until players cast Bright Eyes Gleam in the Depths and threw open every day regio in the Empire and said to the day, as has been previously established, when you cast these Empire-wide day enchantments or realm winter enchantments, that throws all the regios open and all of the Eternals can come in as much as they like. So 2, 3, 4 hours after an Eternal said, I swear to destroy the Empire with all of my tiny, tiny might, the Empire went, oh, in that case, we throw all the doors open, help yourself to as much as you like. And we were like, shit. Shit. Shit, shit, shit. The players have called our bluff big time. Big time. We had, and we're like, what do we do now? The Empire's given this Eternal complete freedom to invade anywhere he likes in the Empire at his will. And we're like, all right, well, he does then. We had no plan as that is the outcome when we started. How could we know players were going to cast Bright Eyes Gleam in the Depth? That never occurred to us. We don't. A friend of mine, when I run my D&D game, always goes, oh, the Lich is always 11 moves ahead. And I'm like, yeah, except he's played by Matt, and Matt is not 11 moves ahead. We've no idea what the players are doing from 1 minute to the next. So we can't plan from one event to the next. We don't write plots as a story where we go, this will happen, then this will happen, then this will happen. We just don't do that. We just go, here's a situation, what do you want to do? The players go, we do this. We go, okay, this happens. Here's the new situation. What do you want to do now? And then the players do something. We go, okay, move the machine forward, rinse and repeat. And that's how the whole game works. So we had zero concept whatsoever. And I can, it just never occurred to us that the players would do that. Our bluff got called, and you should never, ever, ever call my bluff in a LARP game, because I will always push the point.
Yeah.
I don't think people necessarily believe you when you say that we don't have a plot written in advance, because
No.
obviously that is crazy, and nobody would write an entire first event in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
But
an
it is
interesting one.
genuine and true. It's not. It's terrifying and quite exciting at the same time.
I've just got images now of Matt and all the plot writers on a Discord call at 2 o'clock in the morning. There's like a couple of bottles of whiskey empty around all the screens, and they're all just there. So what do we do? It's like, I got an idea. Let's do this, and it's just something really out there.
Generally, a lot of the response stuff is really quite easy. If you've built your entire game to be a response engine, what a lot of writers do in a lot of plots is they write stories. They go, I've got a big story. I've got this concept in mind, and this will happen, and then this will happen, and this will happen. Story-based plot is fantastic, because story-based plot allows you to deliver very dramatic stories with very dramatic beats. And you can advertise the beats and go, hey, everyone, be here at this time because something cool is going to happen. Story-based plot has a lot of positives for it. The weakness is it can be hard for it to be player effectable. And then when the players do something, the organisers go, oh no, how are we going to cope with this? Because we hadn't planned for that. Well, we are the solution. We don't plan for anything. We don't make any plan of any kind whatsoever. And that's deliberate, because if we did, it would bias our judgment of what the players did. The moment you start saying, oh, well, we want the players to do this, or we think the players should do that, or we expect the players to do this, you're going to look at what they did do and judge it against what you expected them to do.
Yeah.
So the solution is to have no plan whatsoever. None at all. And
Okay.
and
He
that
means
is
it. He genuinely does mean it.
Oh, I believe him.
that is absolutely how Empire runs. The game with no plan whatsoever. That could be our new USP. What's your USP at Empire? We have no clue what we're doing. None at all.
Empire, making it up as we go along.
Making it up as we go along. But if you think about it, that is exactly what a highly responsive game is doing. It is making it up as it goes along. And that is just another way of saying it. That's how we do it. But the point is, once you've got zero expectations, once you've got no plan for what will happen, you're not then thrown a curveball by whatever it is the players do. Generally, I accept we were thrown a curveball when they cast Bright Ice Gleam in the Depth. That was like, that came out of nowhere and clocked us around the back of the head and went, oh, the players have done this, you better respond to this. Sometimes, but most of the time, players just do crazy shit, and we're like, yeah, roll with that. Oh, they've declared peace with the Grendel, right? Okay. Oh, they've made an alliance with the Druge. Okay. Oh, they've declared war on the team. Okay. We just roll with it, and because the game has no plan, it's not like we lose. We don't go, oh, that's wrecked everything. We don't have to throw any work away because we haven't done any work.
I've scrolled down in chat and there's a comment there from Andy.
Oh.
Oh dear.
We shouldn't have told him we were doing this.
No, 78% of our high-level plot discussions happen in a van.
Yeah.
That's true.
So that's, yeah. I thought I'd give up and I'd just scroll down to catch up and then see. There was one from Esme saying, has Steve scrolled down at all yet? So, yes. Yes, I have now. Oh, he's scrolled down. There we go. Oh, no, he's on to us. Perfect. So, is there a big... Actually, no, I know the answer to the question already. The answer is no. It's. I was gonna say, is there a big end planned to Empire? Do you have an idea? But I think the answer is obviously no.
Correct. Once you understand the design principles, the core design principles, you're like, they just can't be. It would be incompatible with everything Matt's just said. Correct. There's no end plan. Yeah.
So Ryan's asked, what's been your favourite piece of plot for the last 12 months?
Oh.
Or say since COVID, give you a bigger...
Yeah. I mean, God, so many. One of the things, I'm so lucky, we have such amazing players in Empire, such amazing players. And they do amazing things. Um, when we said you can brutally murder all the Black Wind and it will force their army to surrender, I never in my wildest dreams thought some player would do it. And then they did. And I was like, oh my God, I just want to kiss you. That is amazing. What you have done there is incredible. You are so villainous and so dastardly. I just want to run up and whoever you were, give you the biggest hug in the world. You were amazing. As someone who plays the villain, I take off my hat and go, that is a 10 out of 10 for good villaining. Well done. So that was an epic moment for me when they did that. I was just, my jaw dropped. I was like, we offered it, but I never thought in a million years someone would have the raw guts to just do it. That was amazing. It's hard. We run a lot of plot, but I don't have a lot of visibility. Andy knows a lot of plot that all the writers are doing. I only do know my own plot. So often, there are bits of plot where people have run. I thought incredible. There's a piece of writing coming out on the Penitentiary written by Jonathan Fry, and it's got a herald called Synonym, and the writing just made me just chuckle all the way through. And it's beautiful. It's classic Jonathan Fry. He does these. I'm always in awe of people who create kinds of plot I can't create. Kat
Yeah.
Quatermass used to write these incredibly intricate character pieces that gave people very personal experiences, something I can't do for love nor money. And I was always in awe of it. I was like, wow, that's just, you can do that. It seems to me like magic. We're always impressed by the things we can't do. Jonathan Fry is brilliant at creating encounters for people that are off Anvil and that aren't combats but are atmospheric and engaging. And I read this, and I was like, oh, I would want to be in that scene. That sounds brilliant. So that I'm really looking forward to that. That is coming in a few days. That will get released. Look out for Synonym. Just best NPC so far, I think. My favourite bit was getting to play that wicked poacher, and getting 2 players turn up and three or 4 players turn up and kill me in an encounter tent. And just, I was terrible because I was scheduled to be in there for an hour, and as you have discovered, I never shut up, ever. And they role played with me for about an hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes, and in the end, trying to convince me to do the thing they wanted to do, and I was not for doing it. And in the end, they murdered me, and that was just amazing. And it's such a privilege. Such a privilege to get to role play with players in that moment. Again, playing an orc, playing a Ravin in the Imperial Orc camp. I've never played an NPC in the Imperial Orc camp before. So immersive. So I went in there feeling really self-conscious, feeling like, I feel like the biggest prick in the world here. I didn't feel at home in the mask. I didn't feel at home in the costume. And within half an hour, they had me believing I'm a member of the Ravin tribe. Their role playing of the people in that scene was to die for, and just to get a chance to interact with players in those moments is just, it's just such a privilege. So yeah, but getting to play that Ravin, get to play that poacher, those were my highlights. And seeing that player butcher those Black Wind, I was just, and murder the Montanians. I was just like, oh, you are my favourite player ever. You, sir, are a quality villain. I am in awe and admiration.
That's awesome. How about yourself, Claire? Have you had any, like, not even supposed to specifically plot moments, but any like moments in the last since
I was just
COVID?
thinking I'm gonna have to go and beg Beth for NPC role because I haven't done anything for a while.
Yeah, you need to get out.
Yeah. Holly's first plot was her hen's teeth plot.
Okay.
And that was Holly's first plot that she wrote was I looked at it and I thought, this is far too complex. There's no way we can possibly run this. Going to be awful, and it was perfect and beautiful, and everybody had engaged with it, and I thought that was lovely. I can't even explain it properly because it's other people's stories to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love those sorts of things. I was lucky enough. I went on a skirmish. This is before COVID, and it was a 4-person skirmish, and combat was none, and it was an accessibility
Right.
one, and it was a diplomatic thing. So it was two members of Navarre were there negotiating with, I think it was a Druge ambassador there with a
That's
bodyguard.
right.
So we turned up as their bodyguard. We knew there wasn't going to be any combat going on, but I think that they had the NPCs must have been told, if there are people there who are looking like they are up for a bit of combat, as a bodyguard, go and poke them. Has to, because that's what he did. So we killed him, basically. And our ambassadors left, and then we chased down their ambassador and killed him. My God, we were in so much trouble. We walked out of that skirmish, and then we were getting reports going, oh yeah, these ambassadors, these generals are all turning up there looking for these people. And we were like, nah, it wasn't us. No, we didn't go on that. And then it found out who it was, and we were properly hauled before I think it was Oliver Facey's magistrate.
That's right.
We just said what happened, and we were just like, well, he was mean to us, and he actually came out with a response. It's like, what are you, 5? It's like, he said a mean word to you, so you hacked him to. It's like, you are aware we're now almost at war with them again because of you fucking idiots. And it was great.
Sounds like PvP to me.
It was so much fun. It was so much fun.
But it's a
loved
beautiful example of why you need the game to work. For Empire to work the way it does, we've got to be totally know a plan for what the outcome of that is at all. We're going to send some ambassadors in, and we think, oh, we're going to negotiate with the players, and then there'll be an X, and they'll either agree or we don't agree. What we haven't planned for is then Hefty Yeti chases them down and murders them. That isn't a thing we thought about, and you have to, if you want your game to be open.
Yeah.
Open to those possibilities and to present them, you have to then, when they happen, respond to them.
Yes. Yeah.
Another plot I want to talk about was Renner's plot, and I can't talk about it, but it was the Spider's web plot, and some players who were involved in that plot will know what that was, the web plot. What I loved about it is a thing we call leverage. Leverage is a thing I used to talk about a lot. Don't talk about it as much. In a FES game, there are 3,500 players, and we've got like 40 NPCs. So if we're going to try and keep you all engaged all weekend with our 40 NPCs, we've got 1 to 100 ratio. That's going to be tough.
Yeah.
If the plot is only enjoyable at the point where you're interacting with my NPC, it has 0 leverage. So if the plot is you're talking to my NPC, and then when we stop talking, the plot is done, that has no leverage, because it only produces as much role play and interaction as the NPC creates through interaction. If you go away from my NPC and have 2 conversations, and they have 2 conversations, and if it cascades and suddenly there is hundreds of people talking to hundreds of people, then I have achieved leverage.
Yeah.
I've used a tiny amount of resources to create a huge amount of role play in the field. And what Renner's plot did incredibly well was take a tiny amount of resources, tiny, like a dash of seasoning, and create a little cascade across the game. And you're like, oh, as a plot writer, I look at that and go, the crafting of that is so elegant.
Yeah.
It's so well written and so well thought through and so well designed that you've used a tiny amount of effort to create a huge amount of game. And as a sort of professional writer, I look at that and just go, oh, I'm not admiring in character. I'm admiring the craft out of character of what you've done there.
Yeah.
The skill of the writing and then the designing of the plot and yeah. So that was another one.
Yeah. That's really. I mean, you can tell when there has been like a lot of care has gone into like pieces of plot and stuff like that. It's because I'm lucky getting to do this. I talk to a lot of people, and I hear all of their stories about stuff they've got up to, plot they're involved in, and it's really, really nice. And I know a couple of the plot team, and I've brought up some of these stories back to them, and like a couple of them have literally been Oh, that was a little bit. That was like a throwaway thing that we just thought we'll put in and see what happens with it. And it's like it's created bit of game for like 700 people out in the field. Everyone's angry about this one little thing that's gone on in a mine somewhere, and it's just like, oh, okay. Oh, I need to write some more then, I guess. And that's it. And that's really really nice. I love that. So. Because I'm just noticing the time at the moment as well. So Esme's come up with a good question. Because we've been talking to a lot of crew recently and things like that. So she's asked, I've personally considered going NPCing, especially hearing there's apparently a shortage on NPCs, but I'm thoroughly intimidated by the fact that you might encounter players who have years more knowledge about whatever you might be playing. Is there anything set up or tips you can give to newer-ish players who might want to NPC?
Yeah, so that's really interesting. Do you want to answer that, Claire, or do you want me to? I'm conscious
So
that
you
I
do.
talk like a force.
It's all right. It's all right. Everybody wants to hear you talk tonight. I've snuck my way in. So NBC, you do have to have a certain level of confidence because you do have to go out there and talk to the players. So it's good to have some knowledge. But of course, we do brief you, and we won't just send you out on your own straight away. You'll have some buddies to hide behind until your confidence grows doing it. But also, I suspect if they've been playing for a few events, they know more than they think they do already.
Yeah, definitely. Esme is she's a very confident person. She just doesn't know it, and
Yep.
she is the steward in my hall. So she's the number two in my hall, and so where my wife is the Thane, but she wasn't at the last event, and Esme took over, and she went to all the meetings. She literally went to everything, and she absolutely rocked it. She was so good. She is a lot more confident than she
Uh,
realizes.
yeah. So we know exactly how this will go. We'll buddy her up with one of our existing NPCs who does it, and
Mm.
by the time they're talking to their second player, Esme will be in charge.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's it. She'll be running it all by
that's our ideal.
by the time she's done. So yeah, there's a comment there saying PD take very good care of their crew, and from all the chats that I've done, that is 100% the case. Is there? I mean, crew shortages and things like that. So, because I think last event I actually worked on the gate for a couple of hours to help out because I know a lot of people there was a sickness and people weren't there and things. Is there a need for a lot more crew, or is it just in
So,
specific areas? So this is the time to literally say to everybody, we would love people here, 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 and here.
yeah, I mean, firstly, I'll say a couple of things. I want to, if I can, because you've got me on my soapbox now. Occasionally, people will say to people who've never LARPed before, "Oh, crew! It's a good idea to crew your first event." We're in PD. We don't think that is true. We think if you've never done to LARP before, the best thing you could possibly do is play the game. You get a really weird impression of LARP if you crew it, and it's a different thing. And actually, you want the feel of what the game should feel like. You know, one of the things I always say is if you're going to crew, it's important to play occasionally. You should know what LARP is like, otherwise, how are you going to make one? Um, so we want people who've got a little bit of LARP experience, but you don't need a lot. You
Yeah,
just need a little bit and a bit of passion and a bit of kind of, yeah, I'm gonna do it. We're desperate for more NPCs. It is hampering how much plot we can run. We'd love to have more. If you like to play a lot of different roles in a weekend, what we don't want is people go, I want an NPC for an event and then go off and play. It's like we can might be able to work with you, but we really want people who'll be part of our growing team so that because if we give you a role, what are we going to do if we need that role again next? And you go, oh, well, it's designed as a one off, great. But what if the players do a thing that means we've got to send it back in? So we ideally we want a team of people that we can learn their skills, they learn what kind of roles they're good at. We want to work with you and make you a PD NPC and build you up and over time and get you to the point where you're super confident about the world and you can go in and hold the floor with 100 players and not worry at all. That's where we want to get you. But we don't expect anyone to start there. We expect people to be a little bit intimidated. It's a big game. It's big backstage. There's great big tents and there's people bustling everywhere. It's intimidating. But if you're interested, if you think actually I'd really enjoy NPCing, I really fancy the idea of playing like a herald and like an orc and a thing and a different kind of characters and going out with these, being able to do in an encounter scene and make. If you really get a buzz out of making scenes for other players, you probably deep down could make a great NPC. And if you think you're interested, we definitely want to hear about it. Are we short of crew? Definitely. Where? Almost everywhere.
No. We're short of event crew. That's what we're
Yeah,
short
we
of.
are.
Okay.
Sorry, I do the crewing, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
so while Matt
Claire's
is
in charge of
helping,
crew.
he's also helping.
I'll just say any old shit.
I'd like to
Um,
do an equally impassioned plea for referees, please.
I was about to get to that. I think the first point I would say is most LARPs would benefit from more people crewing. Some
Yeah.
LARPs only need a certain amount of crew, but most game organisers, in my experience, are like, God, I need more crew, I need more crew. So if you're involved in a LARP and you either PD or another game and you think, oh, I might enjoy crewing, talk to the organisers. They probably want your help. Refs, we are always short of. That is people sort of say, why haven't you got more refs? And we're like, we're trying. It's a really specialized job. If you love it, you love it. But if it's not for you, you won't. And so it's hard for us to recruit refs. It's very customer service role. We need people who are really calm, can deal with people who are really upset, have lost their characters or whatever, whatever. It's a strong customer service kind of role. It's a very support role. You're not getting to do big role play scenes. You're just there subtly giving people the logistical and the rules support they need. And our ref team are fantastic, and I think they really enjoy what they do. And if you think, oh, I'd really like to be on the battles and helping with the refing, or I'd like to be refing in these encounter tents, or refing on the field, supporting people who are bonding, ceremonies, rituals. If you want to be at the ritual site helping out, we really, really, we're desperate keen to recruit more referees. That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
There's a page on the wiki called Crewing Opportunities, where current crewing opportunities are.
Steve has just posted into chat saying there's a good page for this. I've heard this page is useful when you try to post a link, but only my mods can do that. So Steve, that Phil H001, that's Helen, that's my wife. So if you send her the link, oh, there we go. Ryan's done it now as well. Another one of my mods.
Thank you.
Yeah, so people go and have a look at that. And Ryan, I am now wife. No, mate. You're not my... but I appreciate it. So I think there's a lot of stuff that comes out from it. Crewing is hard work, but it's fun.
It's really hard work. That's a couple of things to say. First point is crewing's really hard work. If you crew for Empire, you're going to work your ass off all weekend. And if you're like a bit confused by that, we think crewing is fun and we want to throw as much of that fun at you as we possibly can. So you will find it exhausting. We want you to go home exhausted, but going, oh, that was amazing. I created an incredible event. And there's a theme there. We want crewing to be fun.
Yeah.
That's really, really important to us. Empire, because of its size, if you crew a 20, 30 person LARP, you'll probably do a bit of everything. You'll be NPCing and working on the gate and doing a thing and doing a thing and doing a thing, because small events need that fluidity. They need to move people around. And that's great. That's amazing. You'll do a bit of everything. If you come to Empire and say, I want to be crew, our first question is going to be, and we had this actually, somebody came to us like, I really want to join the crew. And we're like, right, great, what do you want to do? And they're like, oh, I'm not sure.
Crew?
And we're like,
yeah,
you crew. And we're like, well, what are you going to enjoy? I'm not going to put you in a role if we don't think you're going to enjoy it. I have a rule. If you're crewing my event and not enjoying it, I'm going to ask you to stop, because it's not ethical. It's not ethical to crew, for me to get you to crew the event if you're not enjoying it. It's like, why are you here? This is supposed to be your hobby. It's got to be fun.
Yeah.
And so the first start point is, what do you want to do? And in Empire, the roles are all specialized. Refs are very, very specialized. NPCs are specialized. Plot writers, God staff. And I think the God staff would definitely appreciate a couple more God staff. That's a really specialized role, but they have a wild time doing it. Really, really enjoy it. You don't know sometimes you don't know what you'll enjoy, but look at the roles, talk to the people. But we want to know, where can we put you in our crew team that you're going to have a great time? That's a big important issue for us.
Yeah. I mean, because I was obviously, I luckily enough, last event I came there to do some filming behind the scenes and everything, and I've got some lovely footage just to show how hard crew work. And it's funny enough, it's a lovely bit that I was working on editing today, and it was God's tent, and I think it was the Hall of Worlds tent last event they were incredibly mouldy, and all of the crew stayed up until I think God tent was still being cleaned at 1:30 in the morning, and they put in so much time, so much effort, they did so much work just to make sure the game was able to be run for all of the players. And a lot of the players who would walk into God would look at it, not know anything like that. But the work and effort that goes in behind the scenes is phenomenal. You don't realise.
There was a moment when we first moved to that site, the very first event we had at the site we're at now, there was a hurricane. There was a 50-mile-an-hour hurricane. Oh, it wasn't Katrina, Katie.
Storm
Storm
Katie.
Katie hit, and a 50-mile-an-hour winds, and the big marquees started coming down.
Yeah.
When did they start coming down? 4 o'clock in the morning. It is 50-mile-an-hour winds. It is driving rain. I mean, driving rain. It has been, this is Sunday morning. It has been the most exhausting 4 days of work you have ever seen for any human beings ever. We have pushed people through the mud. We have fought our way through the Somme to put this event on. And at 4 o'clock in the morning, the winds start blowing the big marquees down. And from across the site, my red hats just emerged from their sleeping tents and just leapt to and start dismantling the big marquees, because obviously they've got to come down. It's a safety hazard. They've just got to come down as quickly as humanly possible. No alternative. And it's jaw dropping. It is jaw dropping, and you're like, oh my god, to be privileged enough to be the person getting to sort of stand at the front of a team that literally just will walk through hell to make that event happen. And you don't want them to do that. We want to make it fun, but if you work really hard and you treat your crew well and you make it as fun as possible, when the shit hits the fan, they will walk through hell, and they will do things that you will not see in any other walk of life.
No.
You will not see this in the wider world. You simply will not see human beings put that amount of effort in. And you'll think, I didn't know human beings could work that hard. I didn't know they could be that dedicated. Because you don't see that in the real world. You just don't see it.
I remember. Sorry, mate, go on.
No, it's fast.
I was just going to say, I remember an incident in Wintermark with the coming out of the woods into the Wintermark field with that little bridge, which has now been dubbed Hurst Hall Bridge, which is named after my hall, my old hall. And that was because it was all blocked, it was completely flooded, and it was me, another lad called Josh, who had a baby and he hasn't been back since, and two of the red caps who were... One of them, I've got a photo of him somewhere. He's literally neck deep in the water, and we're pulling stuff out of the water, and we are and we just dug everything, and we rebuilt that entire bridge. There was 4 of us, like waist deep. It was insane. I think we were doing it for like 6 hours, and traffic had to be rerouted all the way around, and it was great. That was so much fun because no one cared. We were having a laugh doing it. We were taking the piss out of each other while doing it. And I think one of the red cats even commented when I got into the water that now I'm in the water is now cleaner. It's weird comments like that. And it was just great fun. And I have got all the time in the world for all the crew and all the red caps and everything that they do. Because that was the hard work.
Team.
They really are.
Extraordinary.
Yeah.
And I once gave a talk, you can look this up on YouTube, where I explained it's more important to me for the crew to enjoy the game than the players. And we lost a player over that. A player was outraged. He was like, I pay money to come to the game. I'm like, yeah, you do. You pay money to come to the game. But those people come and put 150 hours of backbreaking work in to make this event happen. So if you think your 75 quid trumps their 150 hours of backbreaking work, I'm very sorry, but you have incorrectly worked out how this works. It's like PD's job is to make our crew enjoy the game. Our crew's job is to make our players enjoy the game.
Yeah.
And if you get the right crew, they will just do that for you. They are brilliant they'll make the game fun the players. My
Yeah.
job ultimately is to try as best I can to make the game fun for my crew.
Yeah, definitely. As Kit's just pointed out, that storm was the death of Feast.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
They never came back. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was tough.
It was completely, yeah.
It was a tough event.
Sorry, I literally do not engage with players who insult crew. Can't stand people who disrespect crew. No, I can't either. I think if you insult crew, go and crew for a bit.
Yeah,
Basically.
Yeah, it's something I won't tolerate. I'm
Don't.
afraid.
We don't want you.
Yeah, we if you're rude to our crew and we find out, you will get a warning. If you do it again, you'll get banned. It's that simple. So I wouldn't do it. Would not recommend it. These people are working their ass off to give you an event. If
Yeah.
you can't respect that, don't come. Don't come.
Definitely. As Kit's just pointed out, I insult him all the time. It's like, yeah, but no one cares, Kit. That's fine. He was best man at my wedding, so I think that's allowed.
I think there are insults and then there are camaraderie of banter. And provided everyone understands and there's a difference, then there's a difference.
So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and it's like me and Claire chatted about doing all the crew stuff and coming along and filming and doing all of that, because crew don't get enough love.
They don't.
They really need all the love.
No.
They need all the love. So I'm going to call the stream there, but thank you for coming on, Claire. I am sorry we didn't get to chat more. You will have to come on your own, so we can actually chat. And I'll make sure that the camera is wider so we can actually see your cat as well.
Yeah, well, Ed's sat here through the whole thing, and you've left him out.
I know, it's disgusting behaviour.
Yeah, he's patiently slept through the whole stream.
It's done really well. So I do actually have an idea for something that I'll pitch to both of you when I've shut the stream down.
Okay.
So
thank you for having us on. I really appreciate it. Obviously, we came on with an agenda. We wanted to talk about PvP. Wanted to try and reiterate some of our ideas. And you've built a great community here. It's fantastic, and we're conscious these days that the people who are in the Empire community are better at talking to the Empire community than we are. And we're like, we need to go where the conversations are. We need to go where the conversations are. So I really appreciate you having us on.
I've always said anytime that you want to come on, anytime you want to do anything, it would
don't say that to me, because no one can stop me talking.
Anytime.
It's like, I'll try and mix it up so you get different people.
Yeah, anytime. I'm always happy to do it, because the game is wonderful and the community that comes through from LARP is wonderful. I need to send you both an email anyway about Comic-Con in October to see if there's anything you would like to be involved with.
Sure.
In any way, shape or form. So the good thing about that is that it's all players as well.
Right.
I don't want people who run the game there. I want the players there, because they're the ones who speak passionately about the game. It's the community talking to people about the game.
Yeah.
So, but yes, everyone in chat, thank you for coming along to, I suppose, tolerate what we're just a lot chatting, I guess.
Yeah, tolerate.
Tolerate
I apologise if we didn't answer many of your questions.
I think we did like 2 out of them all. It's been enlightening. Yeah, Justine PD, great stream. Thank you. That's So we will do this again, I'm sure, at some point.
Definitely.
Yes, we'll look out for the next one with Claire on, because it will just be Claire.
Yeah.
we will chat, because I hasten to say that crew don't get enough love and they need more love. So when you see crew, when you're out in the field it's next week, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Jesus. So when you see them out
Don't say that. Don't say that.
Give them.
No, we've got a whole weekend.
Yeah, we have.
This is So give them some love, because they all deserve it. Am I raiding anyone, chat? Do you want me to? Can I be bothered? Is anyone? No, I can't be asked. Not tonight. Normally I would, but thank you everyone for coming up tonight. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Claire, for coming. It's been
thanks for having us on. Really appreciate it.